a testimony night. A guest speaker is a member here at Shelby Christian Church. Been coming for quite a while. He has been to CR before here at our groups back when we used to meet in the sanctuary. So if you guys would, I'm not going to spill his story. I'll let him do that. So welcome AJ Riley up, please.
Oh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. All right. Well, as Dennis said, my name is AJ Riley. I've been coming here for a while now. My wife is actually who got me into Shelby Christian here. She's been coming since she was before high school, and she knew Pastor Dave, knew everybody, and I guess the best place to start. I was born and raised into a Catholic family, hardcore old school Catholic, and in that family, I went to church every Sunday. I did Wednesday night masses, Latin masses. I went to Catholic school. Grew up. The funny story is I was actually supposed to be a priest. I wanted to be a priest growing up. I used to have fake, I don't know how many people know about Catholic Church, but I had fake Catholic masses in my bedroom where I read from the Bible. I went and got just a loaf of bread, like the circular cutter. I cut out my little communion, grape juice, did on my own thing. There'd be candles burning. Everybody, my mother, even though she was so happy, thought it was the weirdest thing ever. But she was like, well, at least we'll have a priest in the house. But that took a massive left turn. So, but I was really big into theology and everything. Went to high school. Well, I guess the big thing before high school is I always glance over this how long it's been. So when I was 12 years old, my dad passed away. He had what's called the 3-second heart attack, dead before he hit the floor as he was reaching to walk out of his office. He was reaching to go home and open his door, and they found him. They actually had to bust down the door because his body was blocking the door. And I got to meet the guy who gave him CPR. They tried their hardest. But the coroner doctor said he was dead before he hit the ground. So I was at least happy about that. That's about the only part of it I was happy about. But he was pretty much my everything. He was a firefighter his whole life. Outside of his other job, he was my coach in everything I did. He wanted me to play football. I love football, hated playing football. I love baseball, so he became my baseball coach, put me on AAU teams, travel teams before they were travel teams, everything. And when he left, I think I was told, I went through the stages of emotion in about a 5-hour period. Like, I went through everything, so I went off to high school. I played baseball. I don't pat myself on the back much. I got really good at baseball. I know it doesn't look like it now, but I actually used to be in shape. Like, I actually had I never had a six-pack, but I actually had muscles at one point. But in high school, though, was also where I didn't have a male role model. My puberty side, all that stuff really kicked up, and the emotion of not dealing with his death really messed with me. Junior year, ripped my knee in half. Well, I ripped it really bad, pretty much in half. Tore every muscle, tore everything in a freak baseball accident that I don't know how it happened, but it happened. Every scholarship I had got pulled. I went and I got to walk on. I graduated top 5 at Trinity. I got to walk on at U of L because Coach Dan McDonald and my coach, Coach Tompkins, were such good friends from their playing days. They essentially just gave me here's a hand me out, like, we'll let him try. I tried for about 4 months, played some fall stuff, played everything, and I quit. I couldn't do it. My knee just wouldn't let me. I tried to go be a firefighter because that was my dream, to follow my dad. Did that for about a year. and that fell. I had to leave because of what I got really bad into pain pills at that time. That was where it started. I could barely walk. Sometimes if you ever see me around or anywhere, I still barely walk, but and that was because of my own self, I didn't let it heal. I went back before doctors told me I could. It was really bad, and I love being a firefighter. I still brag about it to people, but I didn't want to risk anybody's life by me not having a need first off, and also, God forbid, I get a call while I just pop 3 oxy, and I don't even want to imagine what would happen in that situation. But so I left there, fell in with a bunch of guys who I shouldn't have fell in with, and started doing a lot of cocaine, a lot of ecstasy, smoking weed, and I've always been a drinker. And then I got into dealing cocaine and all that while living on my own. And that actually I got over. That went away when. So I guess I'll pause. The reason why you all are the only people outside of 2 other people I've ever told this full story to. Christina is one, and my mother is the other. They're the only ones who know this full story, beginning to end. So it's the first time I've actually stopped and been like, all right, let me tell it, But my mother found me at my house that I lived on down by U of L. Found me in my house, passed out on the couch, couldn't wake me up. When they finally were able, her and 2 of my roommates were finally able to get me roused, whatever I was in. I couldn't remember the last 2 months at all. And I just was blacked out, didn't know where I was. I kept telling her I forget what I told her, but I had to do XYZ, I gotta get going. She was like, honey, that was 2-3 months ago. And I was like, so she got me actually into a rehab program through my aunt, who's a nurse. I was able to kick all that, all the hard, the coke, the X, all that. I was really proud. She helped me with a person, got me into the career that I'm in, which is roadway design and building. I went to work for KYTC. They put me through school, helped me actually get an associate's degree, do all that. The whole time though, I still drank and I still did pills. I still kept telling myself, you gotta have these pills. Like, you gotta be able to walk, by that point my back then started going. It was just which they said my back started going because my knee couldn't compensate the weight that I was gaining. There's a whole medical thing about it, but so I'm working. The doctors stopped prescribing me pills. I had the pain clinic running prescription. They stopped because I finally admitted to them that I used to be a drug addict. Well, when you do that, the pain pills stop. So I found a guy who he had a running script going, but he never took it. So I would just pay him every Friday for portions of his pills that I could afford. And I kept them in a little cigarette baggie. I'd always light it and I'd keep it in my sock drawer. The other point of it, so there was a guy who was my cousin. He's also more like my brother to me. His name was Justin Owen. Greatest guy I've ever met. Literally anybody who talks will tell you he's the greatest person you'll ever meet in your life. He tried to guide me. All my life he was the only one who would play with me as a kid. He always took care of me. But he kept trying to guide me down this path. He knew I would drink. He was a drinker, but he kept trying to drive me to where I needed to be. Well, the pills were taking over to where I was falling asleep at work. I had a couch in my office. I would go in the morning. I'd been up till 5 a.m. drinking and doing pills, watching whatever TV I could find, hanging out with whatever person decided to spend their time with me. So I would go to work, go onto this couch, pass out, throw up, wake up 2 hours later, go out onto a job site, do my job, go home, do the same thing over and over and over. I ran around at that time with a girl who I did not need to run around with. She was an enabler to me. She had her own problems, and we just, you all know the story. When two addicts get in a room and they're on stuff, it never ends well. And that was what happened there. And luckily though, now I've heard she's gotten clean, doing her own thing, so that's great. But one night I was sitting there, not wanting to go out, extremely depressed, extremely just pissed off at the world, I didn't like people, I didn't like anything, I just blamed everybody for my own failures, said it was the school that failed, U of L failed me because they took away my baseball career, McMahon failed me because they took away my firefighting career, my family hates me, I was so smart, I should be here, but I'm here. Well, my cousin called me and said, come out for the night. We're going to a friend's birthday party. I said, I don't want to go. I don't like this person. I didn't like a lot of people. And I said, I don't like them. He's like, nope, you're coming out. I was like, nope, I'm not going out. He threatened to come pick me up. I was like, fine, I'll go. Well, luckily I did. I met Christina that night. Her friend also drug her out, and she didn't want to go. So I guess we bonded over that. Her favorite thing to say is my opening pickup line, the greatest pickup line ever. We were standing outside smoking a cigarette, and I asked her, what do you do for a living? That was my big, I was like, what do you do for a living? And that was that. But, so, me and Christina moved fast, and she was actually the first person to see that I had another problem. I told her, I said, I used to be an addict, but I'm good now. Don't worry. She was the first person to see there was another problem. That I drank way too much without knowing that I drank too much. And there was one occasion where she called me out. I was at my cousin Justin's house, and she called me and said, I think you're an alcoholic. I told her, I think you're a B word. And I said, I don't want to see you anymore. We broke up. Well, I actually lied to her after that, and I said, you know what, I'm still interested in my ex-girlfriend. I don't think we should be together. And we broke up for about a week and got back together. She called me on all my BS, and I was like, all right. But the big thing was she kept with me and let me go, but I know we went to these trivia nights. I would come in, she would see, on a Wednesday night trivia night, there would be Jaeger bombs going down like crazy, there'd be beers flowing like crazy, shot people doing inappropriate, and it was every night, and she did not partake as much in that. She drank, but she didn't partake in the craziness. But she had to partake in the taking my butt home and dealing with me. She broke up many fights because when I got drunk, I like to think I was a lot stronger than I was, and my hatred for some people would come out. That if I thought you were wronging me for some reason, I decided to let you know about it. But it was just getting very, very bad. And then this is where the train that was already kind of wobbling on the tracks went sideways. My cousin Justin, who I told you about, who I loved beyond measure, died of a colon cancer that came out of nowhere at the age of 30, just about to turn 36. It came out of nowhere. His chemo was awesome. He was the only person I'd seen in chemo where it really never affected him. He went through, he had the last surgery he had to get. They were going to take off the part of his liver that was bad because it had moved to his liver. I have the text from him where we were texting and calling right before he went in. And then later on the day, I found out they took that part of the kidney or the liver away, and they found another tumor that they didn't see on any of their scans. And it was so big, and his blood pressure plummeted. He held on for about 4 days. Kidneys both shut down, everything, and he passed away. And I don't think anybody had ever seen, I'd lost my dad. I'd been around so much death, but losing him was the end for me. I mean, I gave up. I just gave up. I said I didn't want anything anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't like any, but not, I got 2 great stepkids. I got an amazing, at the time she was, my girlfriend wasn't even a fiance. We were living together. I have an amazing mother, sister, everybody, niece, nephew, but I was like, without him here, I said there was nothing. I said he was my only friend, my only true friend, my best friend. He was going to be my best man. He didn't know about it, but it was going to. And so the drinking took on another bunch of legs that it shouldn't. There were nights where I would, not proud of myself, I would get behind the wheel. That still makes me want to throw up to hear about it. I would pull up, Christina would call me, "Where are you at?" "Oh, I'm getting a ride home." She's like, "Really?" "I'm looking out the window, I can see the car." I said, I said, "Oh, babe," I said, "somebody else drove me home." She's like, "Really?" "I watched you pull up." I was like, "I'll be in there in a minute, don't worry." Well, I wouldn't be in there. She would be out in the front yard picking me up, or pick me up out of the driver's seat, or right outside the driver's seat where I face planted and passed out. She does have a video where I took so many pills and I was so drunk that I tried to drink Drano thinking it was water, and I tried to fight her over it. And there were also many times where I begged her to leave me because I was too coward to leave her. I begged her to leave. I begged her to take the kids. Like, do the best for yourself. Let me go. I just want to die. I tried to drink myself to death. I'd had other suicide attempts that in my past. I kind of gloss over them. I don't like to talk about them, but I've tried to slit my wrist, hang myself, kill myself to death, do whatever I could. But this was, I legitimately was the first time where I was actually telling myself I wanted to die. I don't want to be here anymore. Without him here, there's nothing. I don't trust any of my other friends. I don't trust my own girlfriend and kids. I don't trust anybody. And I just wanted to die. And I kept begging her to leave. Like, do the best thing for you and leave, please. And she never left. I know most people nowadays would tell her you should have ran, but she stuck with me. It all came to a head. At her nephew's, my nephew's and her nephew's birthday party on October 30th. It was a Halloween party. I was actually doing good. I was only drinking beer. I was happy. We hadn't been fighting as much. I hadn't been doing my line. I lied to her over and over again. I'd wake up on a Sunday morning, be like, "Oh, I bleeped up last night. I gotta go get her some flowers or something." She'd be like, "You need to change." And I'd be like, "Oh, I promise you, I'll change." Well, I'd stay sober for about 6-7 hours. And then I'd be at my brother-in-law's drinking or doing whatever, carrying on. Well, finally at this party, I guess the other thing, I can put a mask on. I'm very good. I'm sure everybody knows about putting a mask on. I can put a mask on. I go to work. I was able to go to work. Everybody would tell me, "Hey, you're not that bad. She's crazy. She's the wrong one. You're not an alcoholic. I've been with you." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." Problem is, they only saw me at the 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. side, when I was just a couple beers deep, while Christina saw me from the 10 p.m. to whatever time the bender ended, and she had to clean up the mess, and I would be fighting with her and throwing things and just puke everywhere, scaring the kids. It was not fun. And then this party came along. Again, I have this mask on. We're putting the mask on that we're good, that we're 100%. We're not fighting at all. We're perfect. She doesn't care. Well, a couple of my brother-in-law's friends showed up, who I know through work. They brought some Jaeger. I started taking shots of Jaeger out back. Christina was ready to go. She wasn't feeling well, so she was ready to go. We were going to take my brother-in-law's other 2 kids with us back to our apartment we were living at here while our house was being built. Take our kids, and we were going to go, and everything fine. She had no idea what was happening in the backyard. She thought I just had a couple beers. Well, I'm sitting there, I was like, all right, I feel good enough, like I'll be fine. I get in the driver's seat. Well, at the time I hated him, but this friend who ironically brought the Jaeger came around and the window was down and said to me, hey, should you be driving? I said, man, be quiet. I said, yeah, I'm fine. And he leaned over and told Christina, like, hey, he's been back there drinking Jaeger like it's water. Like, he shouldn't be driving. That was her final straw, because the kids are strapped in the back. And I'm about to go driving halfway across Shelbyville to our apartment. And you know, maybe I would have made it, but the thought of what would happen if I didn't, it's understandable why she got so mad. I hate myself for doing it. Luckily, but a big fight erupted. I made a butt of myself to her family. I said things about her cousins I shouldn't have. There was a lot of. We got home. I yelled at her the whole way home. I yelled when we got home. The kids were. She was on the verge of having to call somebody to come get all the kids because they were so scared. They were hiding under the bed because they were afraid what I was going to do. Even though I never laid hands on anybody. I never would. But they didn't. And honestly, I didn't know if I really would have. I was so mad at that point. I wake up Sunday on the couch, hungover. It was, bad. Christina's still awake crying from the whole, never slept, still crying. I come in there, all right, time to put on the face, time to do the I'm sorry's and I'll go talk to the kids. She gave me the first thing she said, it's drinking or me. Drinking and pills or me. I was like, what? I was like, I've heard this, that. She's like, no. She's like, if you don't answer this question right now, I'm packing your S word for you and you're gone. I was like, she's not serious. I was like, I got mad. I left. I came back. She was sitting where she was still sitting, and she had pulled out my stuff from the dresser, from where we had it. She pulled it out, and she was ready. She was being serious. I got mad again. I called my mom, told her what was going on. My mom told me, hey, maybe you should actually think about what she's saying. I told my mom, thanks, Mom, you're really no help. She also told me, well, it's about time you grow up and stop calling you mommy for all your issues. So I was like, touche. Because what you don't know, there were many nights where I would actually call my mother at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were living in Louisville. Make her drive across Louisville to my house because because she took my keys. And I would be like, you need to come get me right now. She would pull up in the driveway. Christina would have to go out and talk to her, tell her what was going on. Like, don't worry, it's just him being him. She'd be like, all right, and have to leave. I tortured my mother to death. So she finally told me, she was like, stop calling me for all your help. She's like, I've already helped you once and it didn't work. And so I sat there for a while on my own, smoked some cigarettes, and then I went in there and I had this decanter that she had bought me. It was full of, I'm originally from Bardstown, Kentucky. I love my bourbon. Or I did love my bourbon, but it was a $200 bottle of bourbon in this decanter, and she's watching me and she's like, what are you doing? She was getting pissed because I think she thought I was going to make a drink. I went to the sink and I poured that decanter down the drain. Poured the whole thing out. She freaking out, what the heck are you doing? You know how much money that is? And I was like, I didn't say a word. I went to our liquor rack, I grabbed 3 more bottles that I had on there, unscrewed the tops, even if they weren't open, unscrewed them down the drain. I told her, I said, I'm actually going to be sober this time. I said, I promise. She's like, you're going to have to prove it to me. She said, you've said this too many times. Well, it had been 1,060 days since I had my last drink and my last pill. So almost 3 years. I still struggle. We all know the struggle's still there. I had to quit some stuff that I was part of. I was a member of the German American Club as an Irishman. I mean, that's some irony. But they did tell me, they're like, well, at least you're not Italian, we'll take you. I was like, all right, I'll go with it. I'm not kidding. That was told to me at the first meeting. And I was like, they're like, this is an Irish guy. And I was like, I don't know. I just like to drink beer. So I had to quit. I can't go to the German American Club anymore because it's too much time. I believe in people, place, and things. Get rid of the people. Don't go to the places. Throw out the things that remind you. God, the way I'm going to tie this into who really matters in this story, the number one. She brought God back into my life. I never wanted to be in a church. I hated church. God had taken everything from me. I didn't believe in him anymore. I wasn't a Satanist, but I would purposely listen to music that would piss God off just because I was like, you know what, screw it. She told me, I said, I'm never going back to Catholic Church. I hate them. I hate what they stand for. I don't like all their stuff. I do like some of their theology and their tradition, but I don't like their strictness for the rules. I don't like having to worry about old lady Smith knowing if I'm sitting in the pew or not. She told me, why don't you come to my church? I was like, what, here in town? She was like, yeah, the one I went to since I was a kid. She's like, it's different. That's all she said, it's different than what you know. I came in here. Pastor Dave was preaching that day. First thing that happened, the music hits. And I'm like, I don't know if you've ever been to a Catholic Mass, but the music is very organ. Everybody sing. The scene from the Titanic when they're in church and they're all singing together to a piano, that's Catholic music. I hear guitars, which I'm a guitar player. I hear drums, and I'm like, I'm kind of I was like, all right, I can get down to this. Like, at least they got good music. Then Pastor Dave started talking, and I forget what series he was in, but I remember he was talking about accountability and accountability in God's eyes. And I just immediately, I told her right out, I was like, I've never had a pastor, priest, anything that I felt like I could relate to. I felt like I could sit down with him and have a talk. So I was like, all right, well, we'll come back again next Sunday. Give it another shot. Well, then Jason was preaching. Again, I was like, well, who's this guy? I thought you already had another guy. She's like, no, this is the other pastor. I was like, oh, I didn't know y'all had two. We only had one. I was like, all right, cool. Figured this out. Little did I know there's a whole string of pastors. I was like, all right. I was like, well, go with this guy. Jason, same thing. I'm like, I feel you. Like, I feel you, what you're saying. Like, you're hitting down in here. So we went through pathways. I was like, you know what? I want to be involved. I want a community. I don't drink anymore. All my drinking buddies are gone. Everything's gone. I was like, I need a community. Went through pathways. And then I asked Pastor Dave after service one day, I asked him, I said, he was filling out a thing that said, where were you baptized? I put St. Barnabas Catholic Church. But then I thought about it, and I went up holding my card like a schoolboy up to Pastor Dave. And I was like, hey, Pastor Dave? And he's like, yeah. I said, I was baptized in the Catholic Church. Does that count? Like I was just like, I know what you all do here, like with the baptisms, come forward, revival, baptism. I was like, but I was baptized there. Me and him had probably a 20-minute conversation, 20 to 30 minutes, and he explained to me why he thought it didn't count. And I said, what he pointed out to me made sense. He said, I didn't get to choose that. He's like, you hadn't chosen Jesus at that point. Now, Jesus made you, God made you, but you hadn't got to choose Jesus at that point. You hadn't got to go through what you went through, experience his word, his love. But I was like, you know what, you're right. We went to the next step of pathways. Some people here were there. I told him, I said, I'm ready. I said, I want to get baptized. I said, I want to change my life. I'm ready to accept Jesus. I'm be back in his good graces. And after pathways, he baptized me right in there. I kept my kids out of bed. They came up. My kids came up so they could see it, and that was more emotional than anything. And now I just try to help other people. I really try to help others. The other day I had to talk to somebody, a good friend of ours, who had pill bottles in her hand and wanted to kill herself. I had to have that phone call, and I had to get her off that ledge. And I'm glad that I was able to, she did, you know, and the thank yous. I told her, I said, don't thank me. I said, you did what God wanted you to do, and that's your time's not up. You know, like you're trying to take God's will into your hands. We don't do, like, you can't do that. But that's been, and so last thing I'll think about something. So I have, and a guy at work told me, he saw these one day. He's like, you have 3 crosses on. He's like, either you're really unlucky and needs God's help, or you're really, really into God. And I said, yeah. I said, well, now I explain. This is a Celtic cross I got from my grandmother. She gave me when I was very young, when I did my first communion in Catholic Church, and I found it. This is what my wife gave me right after I got baptized in there, because she knew I was going to do it. Even though I told her I didn't know, she knew I was, so she went and bought this one for me. This is what, after I got baptized. And this one holds my cousin Justin's ashes in it, so that he's always here with me. So I thank God every day, like I know you all do too. I thank Him for giving me another chance. Well, He gave me 2 chances. I know we've all got multiple chances. He gave me 2 chances when I sure as belief didn't deserve it. And I wouldn't have blamed Christina if she left me. I wouldn't have blamed him if he left me, but he never did. And I honestly believe Christina, I tell her every single day, I really do, 100%, that she's a gift from God and that she's the greatest thing in my life, her and the kids. We have another one on the way, be here in November. Or December, I'm sorry. Hopefully not November. December 29th, guaranteed. But, insurance, baby. Come on. I thank God every day for this opportunity. When Pastor Dave, this all started from a quote from a song that I posted on Facebook that Pastor Dave saw. It's by Zach Bryan. I really love Zach Bryan, mainly because he sings not the fake country, but he sings about how terrible of a person he is. And how not about his faults. He doesn't try to lie and make you think he's out, driving trucks. Former addict himself. But one of his new songs, there was a line in there. It's called "Remember Everything," and he said, the lady in the song says, "You're drinking everything to clear your mind, but when the heck are you going to clear mine? Or calm your mind? I'm sorry, not clear." You're drinking everything to calm your mind, but when are you going to calm mine? Immediately I thought of her, because the whole point of that whole song is an alcoholic relationship from both sides. From the person trying to save somebody to and they're seeing one single event at a bar from both sets of eyes. And I thought about us, how I thought I'm having the greatest night of my life while Christina is crying at home, wondering where I am, or crying when I get home, or sometimes even crying in the bar because I'm making a fool out of myself. So that's where this all came from. When he asked me, he saw that and he asked me to speak, I was like, I told him, I said, I've never shared my story outside of my family. I said, I'd love to. So that's my story, and I'm still here.